right, you wild and crazy people, I think we're gonna get started. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock for November 19th, 2025. We're in the central office boardroom and we have a quorum. Let's do the agenda review. So any revisions requested, board? Not hearing any, so agenda is accepted without objection. All right, please stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is visitors. Are there any members from the public here that wish to address the board? Any persons online that wish to address the board? Okay. Hearing none, I guess we should close the visitor section, the agenda, and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has minutes, media packet, and the work plan. Does anyone want to pull any of those things out for discussion? Hearing none, the consent agenda is accepted without objection. All right, reports to the board. We have a student board rep report. Maybe we don't have a student board rep here today. It's too cold. So if you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything from them, but I will check in with them tomorrow. I'll be seeing them at 11 tomorrow.
I think so. It's winter sports meeting night tonight, is that right?
A what?
I think it's winter sports meeting night.
There are
so might be
some sports are, yeah, but I don't know that it's all. And we have plenty of the students on SBC that are involved in sports.
Okay, next item is 6B. It's Community Education and Action on Inclusion. It's attachment 6B in your packet, and we have Kelsey Maldiff and Stephanie Ripley to address us. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. So we're really excited to talk to you and share all this great information about where we are on the strategic plan as it comes to community education and access and action on inclusion. And I'm not sure who has slides. You do? If you want to go ahead. So you can go ahead again. So we are, in our plan, we identified that our goal is for all students to have meaningful, equitable, structured and consistent education that embeds skill building regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you can see we identified a theory of action, and then the next slide talks about the evidence that we would see that we were making strides towards this measure. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that evidence tonight. Go ahead.
All right, yeah, so the first one is the number of bias as well as hazing, harassment, and bullying incidents. So some evidence that we have here is that the board adopted the hazing, harassment, and bullying policy in 2016, followed by its procedure. A way that we track these incidents is by using Panorama. We're able to track them by month and then over time by year. So if we go to the next slide. So this chart is showing that this gold color is 2023-24, the incidents. The lighter blue color is 24-25, and this tealish color is this school year. So as you can see, you're seeing a trend decline. So you want to go to the next This one, I'm sorry, looks like it's increasing, but it's not. So the red is 23-24, the gold is 24-25, and then this one is also, right, this green one is showing a decline. So some contributing factors, right, why we're seeing this decline is that Maple Run schools are following the restorative practices. So we're really making an effort to build that community, sense of connection, and along not just with students to staff, it's really students to students, and understanding people as, you know, who they are, what they come in with every day and their identity. So really attributing that work to the restorative practices that we've been encompassing, and our pre-K to 8 schools now are all PBIS, which is also fantastic. Go ahead.
So I'm going to be talking about the evidence related to successful implementation of social emotional learning knowledge and learning opportunities for students and staff, and I really need to talk about the behind the scenes pieces that happened here. We have Alexis White, who really spearheaded our SEL committees, and on those committees there were individuals across grade levels, across schools. Stacy Rulo from Saks was involved, our SEL coach, Rachel Trackham, and this has really been building the understanding among staff and feeling that support for implementing something new this school year. So I just really want to highlight all of that hard work that those individuals did to get us where we are. So the next piece is I wanted to highlight some of the cool things that are happening related to our SEL. So we have positive behavioral interventions and supports happening across schools, as Kelsey mentioned, and each school has sort of a different take on it. SATEC has PAWS, so personal best, act responsibly, work and play safely, and show kindness. So they had an acronym. And I had to put in, I always have to put in the mascots if there's a mascot because I love them. For that school-wide celebration at SATEC, it was a great opportunity. It included all students celebrating each other within the whole school community, and families were invited as well to celebrate their students and celebrate the school community. So that was a great celebration that they had. I wanted to share Saks. They have We Can Be Our Best, so be respectful, encourage kindness, safety first, try your hardest. In that school, they were working towards a celebration, a whole school celebration, and it ended up being, you can see that's Dr. G. It was a pie competition, and I think that it's just really great to see all of the schools celebrating and enjoying and being silly together. So, again, a mascot. If there's a mascot, I'm going to put it in a slideshow. And there's Raider. And then we have, you can see again, like across grade levels, these opportunities for kids to be connecting with each other and building a school community and family.
Trotter's not here. Trotter's tired. So, as you can see, he's not in here. So Fairfield, we have HR3. We've actually been a PBI school since 2008. And so we've been honoring HR3. We are honest, we are respectful, we are ready to learn, we are responsible. So we do whole school celebrations, but I wanted to take a minute to highlight that we have a 6 through 8 community meeting where it's dedicated to 6 through 8, and the 6 through 8 students, they identify the values that they want their peers to live up to. And then we also have a K to 5, and so we really identify characteristics that we want to see in a responsible student, a respectful student, and we have them monthly, so that's how we recognize our students. So we have these celebrations, but I also just wanted to point out what we have in our classroom, and that the SEL isn't just about recognition, it's where do they also see that in the classroom. So here we have some words of affirmation before you leave this classroom. Always remember, I believe in you, trust your gut, follow your heart. We have mindfulness groups for middle school students, which is fantastic. And this is something we talk a lot about in public school because it can be difficult for students to understand that fair isn't always equal, get everybody getting the same thing. It's fair is like what helps the individual succeed. So it's just something important to have visual and to highlight and revisit.
So I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that it looks different at different schools, but within each school community there are opportunities for the for students to be working together and giving back or celebrating things together, and making those connections as a wider community. And so we have BFA, and then on the next slide, I had to put this one in because it's the human services at NCTC, and they're near and dear to my heart because they support our pre-K in a lot of different ways. And so you can see that they're learning about social emotional development, and then they're actually supporting our students and learning about those skills, and then bringing that out into the community and whatever else they might do or lead into. So I just wanted to highlight that as well.
So I'm not sure if you guys saw this in the news, but Maple Run Unified School District was recognized as a national example of success from the International Institute for Restorative Practices. So what's really incredible is that us as leaders, we have these ideas, and then when we see them come to be, and it's really, I just want to give a shout out to the teachers and all the hard work that they're making sure that they take the time to have the circles. They're making sure building community is a priority in their classroom. So it's just really amazing to see the shift that our schools are currently going through.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our Wayfinder SEL curriculum that was rolled out at our last in-service. It was really exciting. It was an opportunity for all of our teachers. I was at the pre-K through 4 training, and I was with the teachers from, there were teachers from SACS, there was SATEC, FCS, and we were all together, and then there was an afternoon session as well for the older grades. But when we asked for feedback, these were the themes that came back to us from our teachers. So they were feeling really jazzed and excited about what their learning was. So they felt it was an engaging, and that the facilitation of the learning was really effective for them. They didn't walk away overwhelmed. They were ready to get into it. It was positive. The curriculum was user-friendly, and they were excited and feeling motivated to start the work there. And then the next slide, I just wanted to share some of the quotes that these were, you can read on here, but these were from our teachers, and their feedback was overwhelmingly positive when they were reflecting on that learning. So the final area that we're going to be speaking about looks at the evidence related to some self-assessments. And again, I just want to highlight that the platform that we're using to gather this data was identified by Alexis, and really helped us be able to see change over time, and the learning that went into that, so we can systematically gather the student voice, and they can tell us about their sense of belonging. So we're going to share some information about that.
Yeah, what's also really important is that at the school level, how this data is used is if a student's flagged for their SEL score, it allows the teachers to look a little deeper into, okay, is it their attendance? Is it academic? Is it behavior? So it's just that missing piece of the puzzle that only the student can identify how they're feeling at school. So it's very, very helpful. So when we look here, this is the whole Maple Run, the data here. So we have grades, this is grades 1, 2. So they answered 97% favorably. And in case a child is unable to read that, it is read to them out loud. So there's not a barrier there for them to access it. Our grades 3 to 5, they answered 91% positively. 6 through 12, 87% positively. And then pre-KK, 98% positively. So when you think about it, how do we compare nationally? If you go to the next slide, it shows, so we're over here, and this is just showing the national trend, so we're doing very well. So it's exciting to take a pause and look at all the wonderful work that our district and our teachers are doing, just because especially this time of year can get really hard, and so it was really, I think, important to highlight all of the work that our teachers are doing and to look at the success that we've had over the past couple years.
Can I add some, sorry.
Yeah.
I should just be quiet. Can you go back a slide? I just want to add something really quick. So not only are these the highest percentages that we've seen in 4 years, we've had the highest response rate that we've had in 4 years as well. So this is also reflective of the most students we've ever had take the SEL survey. We've had some schools reach 100% response rate, so every single student
took the survey, and many of them were 95% or above. So I just wanted to add.
Oh, thank you, that's good information.
It's not representative of a small population, it's a pretty large population of students.
Well, you said that if students can't read the question that's read to them, who reads that to them?
The teacher.
Thank you.
This is great.
Yeah, thank you, yeah, it's very exciting. All right, take that silent pause as everybody.
Fun.
Thank you, Kel.
Thank you.
Kelsey and Stephanie.
Right. Moving on to old business. We have the Vermont Education System Reform Status and Update. And this is a fairy tale that Bill tells once every 2 weeks. No, it's really not funny, but
It's funny, but not funny.
yeah, it's sad. But Bill is going to review the updates with us, such as they are.
I'm going to kind of make it brief, Milda. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. The piece that tomorrow is the last meeting of the task force. There's a sample plan that's out that they passed. They voted to adopt, which is a BOCES model that doesn't reorganize districts, but provides collaboration and voluntary mergers. It's a really thought out plan. I can show you that it's like this thick.
I think we have that, right?
I don't know, Aaron, did you give this to everybody virtually?
They have virtually.
Yeah, okay. It was led by 2 superintendents and Representative Rebecca Holcomb. And they tried to look at it a different way of like, how do we actually cut the cost of education? Because what's found in research is that when you create forced mergers, more than likely they'll unmerge at some point, or they'll go back to where they were. They don't have a long life. They don't have a long life cycle for districts that they're forced to merge. So that work really spurred them to like, how do we make better opportunities, and what does the research say? You've probably seen the press about the governor made a statement on Monday that he didn't feel like they did their job as a task force. And so we'll see where this goes. But as we've all known and we've talked about, this is going to the legislature at the start. And one of the things that you've asked as a board, which I think this is under this topic, I wasn't quite sure as I was getting myself prepped today, but we're all set to meet with the legislators on December 11th. We're going to do it up at Hardack at the lodge. And we are inviting all the boards from across Franklin County, and all 13 senators and representatives have been invited. So we're putting that together from 6 to 8. And it's really in talking to James Gregoire, he and I have agreed, and all the superintendents have agreed, that this is really a listening session for them to listen to the boards and hear where the different boards are at, and then for them to ask questions of you. So they're informed going into the legislative session with it.
Is that going to be available on Zoom?
I have to talk to James about that. I know they have internet capabilities up there, because we've used it before. But I'll have to figure that one out. I'm assuming that's a need for Zoom. Yeah, got it. So, we'll talk more about that at our next meeting.
I really want to be there, but I'm not going to be.
Yeah. I hear you. And what I think is going to happen in talking with the other superintendents is that each board will have time to present what they've been, to either come up as a conclusion or where they are as a board. And you did all that work back in September as a board when we had that special meeting. So I think it's just really for them to hear. And, I think there can be a two-way dialogue, but they're from talking with James and him working with the other, and talking with a couple of the other reps, saying, like, we want to hear from the boards, not so much us saying you know, what we think it is, we want to gather that info, so.
Will it just be board members or will public be invited?
It has to be a public meeting,
Yeah,
it
but
has to
would
be a
it be allowed
special
to speak?
meeting. This is the organizational, it has to be a special meeting for every board has to have a special meeting that night. To have a quorum. There will be a public speaking, there has to be a public, just like we do in our meeting tonight, there has to be a visitor section. And we've hired an outside facilitator to facilitate it, so no one board has to run the whole thing. So what we're really kind of hoping is that the first 2/3 of the meeting will be board and legislative, and then at the end, there'll be visitor comments. So.
Great. Questions for Bill?
For the meeting tomorrow, is there any hint as to what, so the task force brought this draft up, are they going to be reviewing that draft, or is there?
Yeah, so tomorrow's a big work session for them to do their final report.
Okay.
So this is they had 2 different models, I kind of went pretty fast, but there were 2 different models. There was a CTE model based that had 13 districts, and there were 3 people in favor of it, 8 against. I may have the numbers wrong, but it didn't pass. And then for this BOCES model, there were 8 for and 3 against, and it wasn't the same. There wasn't the same split in people that voted. So I know they have to create their report, and so this is the only model they have, because at the last meeting they were determining which models would they include in their report.
So what will that look like, Bill, in terms of, I hear you saying that they're looking to hear from the boards, but we also try to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? Especially when we're publicly speaking. So will we use the, I guess, report that we, you know?
I think you should. I mean, one of the things I've talked about with my colleagues, the 3 superintendents in Franklin County, is we all had that survey that had to take questions. So if we can use that as our basis, doesn't mean you have to stick to it, but these are the questions. Try to cover that. I'll probably do the 4 of us haven't sat down and done the real fine details, but we've done enough conversation even last week of like, okay, let's carve out the time kind of equally and say, you know, if you're, there are a couple boards that haven't taken any position or haven't done any studying of it, so they could say, this is what we've discussed. I mean, because that first 2 questions are, have you discussed it, and what's been the basis of your discussions? And that where might end for a board.
Right.
Where we went all the way through, took a position, you all adopted it, and so you could literally just have that in front and someone speaking for the board.
Okay, so I guess I'm just wondering, like, will we discuss how we communicate that at that meeting
Well, I think we can.
as a board?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea to do it next meeting, or you can do it right now, just saying who's gonna be there and who wants to present that, and is it a group presentation or is it an individual?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any patented way.
No, that's fine. I just was wondering if there was a plan, or were we going to make a plan
Yeah,
as to how we were going to convey our thoughts?
which I think is a great question, how do we
Yeah.
prep for the meeting?
Let's put it on the next agenda and
Okay,
sort of prepare to do that.
and we could put in the packet the answers to the questions, right?
Yes. Susie?
Have the reps confirmed that they're actually all coming?
I was told this was the night with the least amount of conflicts, so I don't think we're gonna get all 13.
Okay.
Because it's everyone from Franklin County, reps and senators.
So you can check with your local person. I guess we could check with our local people and ask if they're able to come.
James Gregoire's been a great partner in this, because he helps kind of organize the Franklin gatherings. And I told him that, and I hope to do it by the end of this week. I just have to confirm with my colleagues. Is get out a, like, he knows, he's already said to everyone through email, save this date, but here's the location. We literally got the location yesterday. So here's the location, here's the time, here's the format. And when I talked to Julie Reginald and John Tegg last Friday, we all kind of agreed on what the format for the agendas would be. So I'm literally just gonna do it alphabetically by district. just to not, have any preference, just say like, we're going A to Z, or the names of the districts. And there are 7 of them.
I just saw Jacoby online.
Oh, there he is.
There, who is?
Jacoby.
Oh. He hasn't been there all along.
I don't know.
No,
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill. Old business B is budget forum reflection, Bill. And anyone else, but.
Did you want me to start that? You started that?
Well, you'll be kinder than I am. I was really disappointed at the lack of turnout that we had at that. We gave it a lot of advertising and press, and we prepared for it, and, just the whole making it all happen. And as far as I know, there were 2 people there that were not members of the school, teachers or whatever. And, it's hard to say when I look back at this, when we're trying to meet these objectives and stuff. I mean, not only do you have to offer something, but you have to get like somebody to come so they can hear what you're trying to do. So, as I said, I was very disappointed, and that's the part I have. Bill, can you make them happier?
Can I make them happier? Well, I can give you this happy news. One of the things that I need to let you know is that we had a calculation in there about what 1% a salary increase for the teachers was, and we had it at $409,000 was 1% for teachers. I have to let you know that there was a miscalculation in that. We included benefits in that cost, so it's actually lower than that. It's $252,000 is what 1% costs for the teachers. As we all know, we're in negotiations, so it's a little bit less, so it doesn't hit us quite as hard. But we're also doing a lot of budget work right now. My personal reflection on it was I joined you, Nilda, in wishing there were more public there. I know Aaron Rousseau put it out just about everywhere we could, electronically and in, between school newsletters, the usual Facebook, Instagrams. We put it in the newspaper. We had Bridget ran a quick piece in there about it. Tried to wrote an article ahead of time to try to get people to come. It's one of the things that I still struggle with. I think any public engagement is good engagement, but how do we get more numbers? And maybe we need more headlines. I just don't know. So.
I would like to add that we had a good discussion with the folks that were there, and picked up on some themes and were able to report out with some information. So that was the positive side of this. Right? Okay.
just
Anything else?
Just one tidbit, the public member who was at, member of the public who was at my table, one of the things that she mentioned, that she talked about was that last year, one of the reasons that she thinks that the budget passed so well is because we were good at getting communication out. So I think it's a good sign that she thought that our communication was good, and also a reminder that the more we communicate it, the better.
Yeah, that was good. That was sort of the general consensus all around. So that was positive. All right, anything more regarding budget forum reflection?
I mean, the only thing I could think of would be to put the kind of like a synopsis of the forum and the highlights of the conversations also on Front Porch Forum, just to continue to keep people informed of the outcomes. And
we can do that. Yeah. I know there are a few things on Front Porch. We actually since then have taken the survey that we had at the forum and added that electronically. The budget page, as you all saw last year, we were part of it, designing it. It's basically taking that and FY26 will be over here and we're building FY27 with the same categories.
Right.
And that just takes a while as we go through the process to build all that. Aaron and I were meeting on that today and we're right on the same timeline. And I'll talk more in the superintendent's report about some of the budget activities we've been doing.
Thank you. Okay, next item is superintendent evaluation. So in your last packet, you received a timeline. That was an old timeline, and you also received a copy of a tool, I guess they call it an instrument, that was used to measure responses to the standards that were used, I think, were the New York standards, right?
They're based on the national standards.
Based on national standards. So what you have in your packet today, again, is that timeline. And in discussion with Becky and Bill, I would like to suggest and get sort of approval by consensus of this board that Milda, Bill, and Becky review the timeline, modify it to fit 2025's calendar, and then look at that instrument and see what kind of modifications need to be made and create a new instrument that we can use that is effective for our school community, and get that all back and look at that along with other things. We'll want to, share that, send that out for leadership and board to complete so we can get that input. And the reason I'd like to get that done sooner with Becky and Bill is that we can get it out sooner and give people, some time to do it, because we're a little late on our timeline as it was described before, but I think we can catch up if we meet all the sort of the vacation cycles correctly. So, I don't know, Becky, did anything else that I might have missed?
You wrapped everything.
Okay, Bill, anything you'd like to add?
One of the pieces I think you and I have talked about adding this year is a piece on goals, on district goals, because Nelda and I were talking, like, what are your goals? And my goals are the district goals. And so I feel that there should be, part of that instrument should be evaluating the progress we're making on the strategic plan and district goals.
Absolutely, yeah. Good. So by consensus, is everyone okay with us working on this and getting it ready to present at a future meeting? I don't want to nail myself down to a date yet, but, at a future meeting soon.
Yeah.
Any objections? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is new business. So the first item is attachment 8A, and that is the district liaison officer report. And I think, Bill, you have info on that? We have the...
Yeah, you have the report, and we've done this for at least 3 or 4 years now. Every year you all give us some suggestions for improvements, so on the second page, you'll see some comparisons to last year's report from this year's report. Not much has changed except for one category, which is our comparison of students identified by race, either white or BIPOC, and we've had an increase there. I do know that, I've looked into what that reason is, and I do have that information. It's understandable in knowing that, but I can't say that here in this format right now of an open session. I would say that otherwise, the instances were about the same. They're a little down, a little less this year than last year overall, but not much. It's been pretty steady. You'll see a lot of the instances. Our biggest instance that has to do with student behavior is elopement. That happens when the student's leaving campus. We have to call for the help of the police department. And then after that, you can see the next biggest one is parking and traffic issues. I know all of you can read this, so I wasn't gonna, sit here and read the whole thing to you, but I did want to point out the place that we did have the biggest change.
And so we have an option here if it's necessary. In order, we have to protect the identity of any of the BIPOC population. So if we were going to talk about this more specifically, and Bill has details, we'd have to go into executive session. So I guess I'm asking y'all if that's something you want to do, or are you satisfied with what you know so far, or how would you like to approach it? Either way is fine. I just need somebody to say something.
I would love to have an executive session to find out that
Okay,
information. Yeah.
anyone else?
I support that.
Okay, so we'll do an executive session at the end of the meeting, just before we adjourn, to review specifically that district liaison report and the outliers. Go ahead.
I just want to, I appreciate that many of the categories are similar. However, there are two that are important that aren't. And I just want to make sure we're not glossing over that. So I just think that we just need to let the data stand for what it is, and we just need to be curious and find out what we need to do differently. But let's not just say everything looks good except for one area, because there's actually two areas that are concerning, and that would also be free and reduced lunch. So, and it's a 17% increase.
What does the visit for education mean?
It means you're coming in to work in the classroom, either you're giving a talk or working with, a good example is coming into the NCTC public safety classroom and doing work there.
So does that mean a student had an issue during
No.
one of those sessions?
No,
or-
what that is working to teach about criminal law or public safety or bike safety or something like that.
I'm just curious, like what's the actual incident that happens?
Well, that's a teacher requests a DLO to come in and work with the kids on something that's a public safety concern.
Oh, okay.
To
So the
learn
DLO
about
is
it.
going to-
Yeah, they're
okay,
coming
I
in
thought you were
hey,
saying like an
can you-
outside
no,
educator was coming in.
No, the DLO comes in and says, hey, let's talk about bike safety.
Mhm.
Or let's talk about, the biggest one that happens quite a bit is NCTC public safety program.
Emergency services.
Yeah, they come in and work with them and do things there.
When you say elopement, do you mean across the board, K through 12, like some kids running away from, say, city school, or somebody in 12th grade skipping? Is that the same elopement?
No, 12th grade skipping a class is not elopement, but if you.
But if they left the
If
building,
they leave the building, it's
you
elopement.
call the police when they...
We have to.
Okay.
We don't have the staff to go follow kids. Obviously, it's different for different.
I was
age
just
appropriate,
curious,
but
'cause
yeah,
Things have changed since the 90s.
yeah. Well, I would say right. Well,
They're getting married,
But
they're
we
running
look-
off and doing
But for me, in the 80s, it's just like open campus and
Yeah.
high school. And I would say our public expectation on that is very different than it was, at least when I was growing up in Rockland City. That our public expectation is that kids are accounted for and we're a local premise. Unless a parent signs out their kid at high school.
Great. Okay, moving on. So, new business B is grant projections for FY '27. It's attachment 8B, and we have Megan and Andrea here to present information related to that.
It's actually gonna be Bree and Megan, sorry, I should have said Andrea and Megan.
Andrea, excuse me, that's why I didn't look right. Yeah, because I didn't make that up, that's what Bill told me. So, thank you. All right, take it away.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our current grants and also some of the implications of some deficits in grant funding that we are anticipating. And also asking the board for a little bit of direction when we are addressing those deficits in the upcoming year. So just many of you, if you were at the education session, have seen some of these slides already. And we did change a couple of, one or two numbers to more accurately reflect what our true allocation was outside of any carry forward. So you might see a change in I think only two numbers, and I'll point that out when we get there. So to just orient people in general to how we receive funds from the federal government has different programs that are targeted to towards certain purposes that will improve educational outcomes for students, specifically looking at communities that might not have the capacity and communities of students who have more extraordinary needs. So they will pass the funding to the state as what's called a subrecipient. The state then identifies all of their school districts as subrecipients and parses out the funds according to their purposes and different formulas and calculations and population. And then Maple Run allocates those funds out to their schools as, again, looking at some different factors, free and reduced lunch, incidence of special education students, and things like that. Do you want to add anything to that funding flow? Any questions about that? All right. So grants at a glance, we have two major categories here. We have consolidated federal programs, which is one of our biggest grants, and we'll talk about what that means. This is one of the areas where you'll see a change, and there's a little asterisk there that almost none of you will be able to read what it says down there, but we did change this number from the board education session to reflect that 1.7 million, it was our allocation from the federal government to the state, to us. And we had something that's called carry forward in all three of our titles. So we had more to invest this year, but this was our true allocation of what we received from the state after they did all of their calculations, and that's about 2.5% of the MRUSD budget. Can I talk about the other categories?
So in other grants, and we're going to mention this in a couple of minutes, there's the IDEAB, Medicaid, Perkins, 21C, and that is about 2.1% of our budget, and it's almost $1.7 million. So Maple Run relies on receiving these grant funds.
So that carryover, that's not included in the 1.68.
No.
So we have that plus the 1.6.
We have the $1,681,387 was the total of our Title I allocation plus our Title II plus our Title IV. And then in addition to that, we had carry forward, and so that's the asterisk where we have about $2 million that we can invest this year.
So the amount of carry forward was about $410,000 from
Across the three programs.
Yes.
And you're talking about FY '26 this year, not FY '27 this year, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The carry forward is from FY '25. Yes.
There's just so much effort.
And if you really want to get confusing, there's even some funds in some places that extend back farther because of sunsetting and all sorts of fun things that we don't need to get into. So we want to talk a little bit about the grants and the purposes. So we talked about Consolidated Federal Programs Grant. You might hear us refer to that as CFP or CFG. Those are interchangeable. And it's called the Consolidated Federal Programs Grant because each one of these is considered a program. Title I is a program, Title II is a program, Title IV is a program. There's also Title III, but that's we don't receive that. And the reason that it's called Consolidated Federal Programs Grant is because we get to apply for all of these programs in one grant application rather than having to do an individual grant application for each one of these, since they have similar requirements and similar monitoring. So Title I, the purpose is really about making sure that all students have an opportunity to receive a fair, equitable, and high-quality education and to close educational achievement gaps. This is by far our biggest allocation in the grant, and it's calculated based off of free and reduced lunch population and a couple of different formulas. When we are looking at the Title I pot of money, there's two different ways for us to administer it. One would be targeted assistance, which we do not do, and one would be school-wide. So targeted assistance is when the free and reduced lunch numbers are lower and only a certain number of students will be served by the investments that are in there for Title I only. School-wide, which is what we operate because our free and reduced lunch population is high enough, and we also qualify for something called the community eligibility provision for free and reduced lunch, where that entitles us to qualify all of our schools for a school-wide program, which means anytime that we put a school-wide investment in, it can benefit every single student and every educator in that school, rather than a very tightly defined caseload of students and educators. So it's really a wonderful way for us to be able to utilize our funds. The other thing is that we get to pool Title I, II, and IV together to have a bigger pot of money to enhance those investments that we know will benefit all of our schools. There's also in Title I required set-aside, so there are some things that we always will have to put in and we can't really touch. That kind of gets skimmed off the top, and that's services and transportation for students experiencing homelessness, as well as parent and family engagement. The other thing I didn't put in here is that there's also something called equitable services for independent schools. If we have independent schools within our geographic region, they are actually entitled to some funds from all of the pots. If they are outside of our region but receive students that we would otherwise educate here at their school and they qualify for Title I, they are eligible for some of our grant funds. So that's another piece that we don't have control over. Those are things that we have to offer, but they don't necessarily have to take it. Title II is really about improving the quality of education through educator and leader effectiveness. We primarily focus on professional learning, and in recent years it's really shifted from being for everyone to being for teachers. If leaders want to be a part of the professional learning, it also needs to be in conjunction with a teacher team so that we're focusing on the folks who are front lines with students. It also can be used to incentivize hiring for hard to recruit positions, but with master agreements it's a little bit difficult for us to utilize it in that way. And so that's a less common usage in Vermont. Title IV is a pretty wide program where we're targeting increasing the capacity of state schools and communities to achieve three different things. One is ensuring a well-rounded education for all students, safe and healthy schools for all students, and then the use of technology. Some of that can be devices and actual infrastructure, but really more on the tech integration side of things and making sure that we are creating responsible digital citizens. Any questions on CFG? That's the longest one. It is consolidated and application, but not in the explanation.
Okay, so the next one are some of the special education grants. So in here you'll see that there's IDEAB and Medicaid. So IDEAB is for children ages 3 through 21. So we have a pre-K IDEAB grant that we received that is very minimal, and then we have the regular IDEAB grant that can serve students K through 21, 22-ish, but they have to be enrolled in public high school. And this is for special ed services for students with disabilities. And this can pay for some salaries, supplies, and occupational and physical therapy supplies for students. And then Medicaid, that is a reimbursement model where we have a Medicaid clerk who receives all the documentation from the special educators and then submits claims in to the state of Vermont, and then we receive a portion back from the state of Vermont of these Medicaid services that the special educators and teachers are providing for these students. Once we receive the Medicaid funds, those funds are ours, and we can use that in a reserve to hold with us. With the Medicaid funds, previously we were whittling down the amount of reserve that we had, so we did have to cut some programs out of this reserve. We are slowly building this reserve back up, so that we can then provide more enhanced programming for the ensuing fiscal years. Medicaid is looking to change the way that they are doing the billing. I don't know much about what their plans are, and there's quite a bit of uncertainty, but there's still going to be Medicaid funds that we're going to generate. But Joe Cataray, who is our Medicaid clerk, has just been doing an outstanding job, where he took this position last year and he's just been running with it and collecting all the things that we can gather. So it's going to be a much more plentiful program that Maple Run's going to be able to offer in the future.
So we have another bucket of grants, which are our after-school and summer programming grants. These are more competitive grants that we have to apply for, and we've had to have a good application so that our programs are viable. So the first one is the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant, and that is what funds Open Doors at SACS. And the idea is to provide high quality after school and summer learning opportunities for students in low income communities. So it's a federal competitive grant. It's part of Title IV. And what I didn't say with the consolidated federal programs is that we're anticipating that Title II and Title IV are done. We're not getting more funds, which would impact 21C. In fact, this summer when we were uncertain about the status of Title II and Title IV, we were also making contingency plans for 21st century as well. And so this is also a partnership grant where the award amount decreases over time and the local contribution needs to increase to create a self-sustaining program. So we are anticipating that this is going to be one of the places where we lose funds in addition to the consolidated federal programs. There's a local grant, a state grant called the After School Program Track Grant, and it is funded by the cannabis tax, which is fun. And it has two pathways. One is program expansion and one is center track. And so I have to say Margot, did a great job of applying for the program expansion. And this, since it's state funds, this is guaranteed money for us. So until June of 2028, we do have some additional funds which will resource our Open Doors program that can also support programming throughout Maple Run. Any questions about this? Okay.
I guess my question would be going back to Title II and IV. I'm assuming that this is where like coaches, and I don't mean physical, like sports coaches, I mean academic coaches
I know what you meant.
are funded.
We'll talk a little bit about the purposes or the uses or current investments. Instructional coaches are not in there right now. They were taken out of grants. But we do have interventionists, we do have some social workers and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and that'll be part of our guidance that we're looking for from the board around how do we respond to the anticipated deficit. So we'll talk a little bit more about the use of those funds.
So is it my understanding that Title IV, we don't have, that money doesn't exist anymore? Is that true?
It's existing in this current fiscal year, but in the future fiscal year, so FY27, it's going away.
Okay, and then for the after-school programs, the after-school program track grant that runs to 28, Will it cover the summer of '28?
It will only be effective through June of 2028.
Right, that was my question,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And if we apply for it again and the grant is still going, then we can get the
Then
money
we-
again.
Yeah, then you can use it for '28, the summer of '28. Gotcha.
But we have guaranteed funds until June of 2028, so.
Okay.
So the Perkins Grant, so this grant is intended just for the Career Technical Education Center, so NCTC receives this money. And this is to further students in the trades to help to develop modern CTE programs, and then to purchase a lot of their equipment, because lots of their equipment is much more expensive than classroom supplies. And then as well as training staff to meet the labor market needs.
Any questions about the purposes of any of our grants? All right, so this next section is what do the grants currently fund? So consolidated federal programming, there are 5 main ways in which we do this. We talked about homeless set-asides, again that is a requirement. So we have transportation, education, and personal supplies for students experiencing homelessness. Transportation is our biggest investment in cost. Because our schools provide so much for our students to be able to access their education. Professional development, and so this is kind of split into 2 different buckets. One of them is external learning, either sending people to conferences or professional learning workshops, or contracting with somebody externally to come in and provide professional learning. And internal learning, where we're providing teacher leaders with stipends to facilitate professional learning or for people to engage in local professional learning. Programming, so STAR math assessment, MClass, Boost literacy assessment, and learning platforms, iExcel, and summer camp access, so both academic programs and supplies and materials there, but also summer camp with Rec and Black Creek is also funded through CFP. And then positions, so these are the positions that we currently have in there, 0.21 FTE or 21% of a position in technology, 1 FTE social worker, 1 literacy interventionist in the high school, 3 literacy interventionists in K and 2 homeschool coordinators. So those are all the positions that we currently have in there. And then parent and family engagement activities, which is another required expense and investment. So that is the 20,000 foot view of what we are currently spending our CFP money on.
Can I ask her a question about homeless?
Yeah.
Has the law changed at all? Like, my understanding is the child can either attend where they're temporarily currently living, and they have to qualify as homeless, and then or they can attend the schools that they left, that they used to go to. Is
I'm
that
looking
still-
over at Alexis as our homeless liaison, so I'm gonna let her.
Is that still the way it works?
Yeah,
And so that's why we have to pay the transportation?
Yeah, so when you qualify, you can attend your school of origin, which is where you're currently enrolled, or you can transfer to your school of residence. But we don't, as the LEA, we're just one member of the team, so we don't really control that decision making. It primarily comes from the family. So we can't make kids transfer or unenroll or move schools.
And the transportation the cost is shared between the,
It is 50%.
okay, that's still
It's
the
half
way.
and half, yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we only pay for transportation for students who are displaced outside of our district. If they're displaced within our district, we find in-house ways to transport them if they're not on a bus route.
Right, okay, thanks.
Thank you for that question. And the intent is to make sure that we have as limited of a disruption in their educational experience as possible.
I'm certain that some people listening to this may not realize it's a law.
Yeah,
You know, it's not just something we do.
right.
And like many, many things that affect our budget are things that we have to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a whole process for determination, for determining whether or not a student is
Yeah.
experiencing homelessness.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question, that's great.
So other grant programs that we have are, we have 14.5 FTEs that are funded, their positions are funded through grants. So at NCTC, they have a mathematics and a literacy teacher, both partially funded through the Perkins grant. We have a school-based clinician, we have school nurses, our Medicaid clerk, multiple special educators, 2 school psychologists, a physical therapist, a director of special ed, enrichment coordinators, and substance abuse program coordinators. So as well as we now have tutors as well over at the LIFT program. So also paying for program supplies and subscriptions. So we've incurred costs for their startup. So that's being paid out of the Medicaid budget and professional development for our staff. Oh, this is me. Sorry. So this is the potential loss of federal dollars. So as you can see, we did update the numbers for Title I, Title II, and Title IV because of the rollover allocation that we received. So these are FY26 allocations that we received. So IDEA, it's showing that it's going to be a stable amount that we're going to receive. So we're projecting that it's going to be level funded. Title I, that one should be level funded as well. But 2 and 4, they're saying that that money is going to go away. Medicaid, because Joe Cataray is doing great, we're expecting to see an increase in revenue for that program. And then 21st Century Schools / that program track grant. Right now we're receiving $147,000 a year, and the 21st Century is going to be cut, and that's $75,000 or $72,000 per year. So it's a potential loss of about $500,000 in grant funds.
So this is where we would like to confirm direction from the board, and would love to hear from you. Is it the desire of the board for us to manage the deficit of federal funds without transferring the costs to the local budget? Or if that's not your desire, what is your desire?
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yep, it's
Oh,
also
sorry.
No, it's okay. I was trying to find a way to word this that was like really straightforward, and I couldn't do it without this many words. So is it the desire of the board for us to manage the deficit of federal funds without transferring the costs to the local budget?
So when you say manage, what does that mean?
So we know we're losing these funds, and we are going to have to make some decisions about what to take out of the grant. So do you want us to be thinking about taking those out of the grant and transferring costs to the local budget, or do you want us to just take them out of the grant
Okay. So,
and not replace them with anything in the local
okay.
budget?
And I would add at the last board meeting when we gave you an estimate of increase, we assumed taking them out of the grant and not putting them in the local budget. That $500,000 in deficit of federal funds.
My question is, though these are projected level funded grants,
For Title I?
yeah, for Title I and IDA, what happens if we don't receive what we're projecting? Because that's happening throughout the nonprofit sector right now. Even though they're awarded X amount, that amount may change once they're awarded.
Mm-hmm. But then we have to make those decisions about whether or not we further make cuts to what we are funding. But that would probably mean that we would need to come back and have that conversation, because, you know, if I go back to where we were with what Title I and II and IV are funding, a lot of those are foundational to the changes that we're seeing in our data and in some of the success of the things that we're trying to do as a district. And so it would be very disappointing and we would have further discussions for sure.
So my confusion with the how of this conversation is going is that I feel like I remember us being in a similar conversation last year, but we didn't itemize positions because we didn't want to do that, right?
Right.
We didn't want to scare people, we didn't want to cause concern, so we didn't put down. So now it's like we're putting it down and you're asking us, you know, point blank, would you like, is our desire to cut these positions right here?
Oh.
Or is it to transfer the cost to the local budget?
So I want to correct something that you're saying. I'm not asking you about cutting positions because it's not necessarily that I would cut positions from the CFP to.
How did people understand that?
I understood it the way you did.
I did
Okay.
not, sorry.
So, I mean, we're just kind of translate like
Yeah,
how
that's
this
why I
is
asked,
being
what do you mean by
presented,
manage?
you know?
Manage means cut,
Well, if you look
or
at like,
cut funds, but
And
doesn't
yet,
mean cut
well,
people.
we're told that we're not the people who make those decisions, that we're just making decisions based on a dollar amount, and then that you all go back with your leaders and you decide what that's gonna look like and what you determine to be what would be either lessened or cut or whatever.
well, wouldn't you have to do
Okay,
it by what
let's
the
try to
grant covers?
Yeah.
focus here a little bit.
So what we're asking is, we're not asking you what to cut from the CFG. What we're asking, and I'm looking at Bill to confirm, is if we don't transfer something to the local budget, we're looking at straight up cuts. And when we talked about and gave us cuts to something, not necessarily to positions, right? Because we have a lot of different things in the grant. And so if we are making those cuts with the direction that you gave us last time, everything that we were talking about with regards to 3%, 4%, 5% was predicated on nothing from grants coming in. If something from grants were to come into the local budget, that would change some of the decisions and conversations we're having to make. And so we're trying to confirm whether or not the board desires us to think about managing the loss of this $500,000 just through what we're investing, or whether or not the board is looking for us to transfer some of those costs to the local budget. Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
I think it's really about guidance. It's
Yeah.
guidance about how much we take a risk with federal dollars.
Right.
Right, I hope you can understand where I'm coming from.
Joanna, can I finish, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. We're asking for you to look at the overall risk of federal dollars. We run our money, the federal dollars run through our local budget. We have a revenue stream that comes out of the feds that goes and affects our local budget. We are doing the work of getting to the targets that the board's asked for the individual cuts. I'm sorry that wasn't worded correctly to be understood that this isn't about the individual pieces, but do you want us to assume, because I made that assumption in the presentation I gave at the last board meeting, and what we wanted to confirm was we are not going to go to looking to find other dollars to replace that $500,000 loss of federal dollars. You know, because that's an assumption we made when we presented you the context for the budget at the last meeting, was saying, hey, this $500,000, because we're at $500,000 less than federal dollars. And so we're just looking to say, hey, is the board still on that place? Because we're literally building the budget right now for next meeting.
So when I look at it and hear the question, I mean, the grants are really specific what they cover. So
Right.
it's Title II and Title IV that we're going to lose, and that would directly impact not necessarily those positions, but professional learning, some of our technology. So like, to me, I don't read it so much as positions, as if we don't put it in the budget, then does that mean that's all the professional learning dollars that
No.
our district has, or
No.
there's other money?
There's other
budgeted for
monies,
that?
there's other
So-
monies for that, but
Okay.
we're looking at that reduction.
Mhm.
And we actually commingle most of those dollars to get to the investments that you see on the screen. Because we're able to do that because of our poverty rate. So that all comes in. You saw one slide that Megan and Bree had up here earlier that showed you all the FTEs and all the pieces and all the different programs, but those are all combined across many different dollars.
I think I want to do some clarification. I think when you're meaning managed, you're not saying cut, you're saying using general funds to kind of alleviate with it. And so instead of like commingling our funds more than specifically using grants. Is that what you were managing it?
Well, I think that's what
Yeah.
Bill just
That's what I'm
said,
trying to
is
like-
that-
Like within the grants, we can commingle. We
Yeah.
don't commingle
Yeah.
local.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is when you're talking about managing, you're trying, like, you're gonna use local funds as much as we can to cover up the deficit.
Well, I guess that's the question,
Yeah.
is.
Do we wanna go out to the public to do it, or try to figure out if we have leftover funds in our budget to do this? That's the question.
We don't have leftover.
I know, yeah.
So it's really, do you desire for us to keep assuming that $500,000 deficit we're gonna have federal and not cover that by raising taxes, frankly?
That's like shaking an 8 ball, because every single day you don't know what the federal government's doing. So your guess is good as ours, I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
But we need to be in alignment. Is what I guess is.
Yeah, do we go out to local tax for the $500,000, or do we just take it as a deficit of what they're asking?
Well, typically, haven't we been in the position of not wanting to use grants to sustain positions? For example, if administration presented to us that we need this position and we can cover it by XYZ grant for 2 years, we as a board, to be fiscally responsible, have always said, well, what happens after 2 years, right? Because you then become used to using that person in that position, and then what? You know, so we've been hesitant to do that. Now, often administration will say, we have 2 years to come up with the money, seeing how it all goes and stuff, so it kind of evens out. But I think this is a little more extreme than that, right? It's the idea of not covering with what we lose with it, so.
So my feeling is, and I'm sure knowing you folks in the administration, it's more prioritized by what students need. And if there are things that, I mean, I think you prioritize what the kids need. And if you can somehow figure out how to support that and give up some of the things that aren't as necessary for kids. I mean, whenever you have $500,000 and you have to not use it anymore because it's not there, what I'm saying is if some of that has been for certain student needs, find the money for that from some other place, if possible. But I realize this is going to be a tough year, and there are going to have to be tough decisions. I understand that. But what I'm saying is prioritize it by what students need, if possible. And it's a tough puzzle to put together, I realize.
See, I think we're getting too much in the weeds here. I think the question is pretty straightforward, but we're trying to kind of solve it in a way, or trying to say, but what if, and but what if, and but what if, and I don't think that's the question. I think the question is more, can we do it, or do we do it, or do we not do it? Because there's two different sides to that, and there's two different implications.
So, Nilda, my question wasn't, I don't believe, was getting into the weeds. My question was, the way that it was presented, I feel like was directing us to make a decision. Like, if we do away with this and not look for the money if we just say to cut it, then this is what we'll be cutting. And I just don't think that's necessarily true, because this is gonna be paid for with $500,000, number one, right? I mean, it'd be a fraction of what this would all cost. So I just think it's just, I'm just looking for the presentation to, the question that's being asked to be appropriate for the presentation. Does that make sense? I think it was a little bit leading, and it didn't seem that it was the appropriate question, or it was asked appropriately.
We're still not getting an answer out of this, though.
I'm sorry?
We didn't, I mean, what's your position as far as, do you want?
Number one, I feel like
cover
we're
the
talking a
bill?
lot about $500,000 when we have a $78 million budget. So I don't know that we should even give it this much weight. I mean, I understand that they're important grants, but it's $500,000 on a $78 million budget. I guess I'll trust you to figure that out. But I don't understand, I don't see the correlation between the presentation and the question, because when I hear this presentation, it led me to believe that if we make this decision that will be, if we choose to cut, right, that this is what we will see disappear. And that's what I feel is misleading or confusing. Maybe it's just confusing. Does that make sense?
Charlie?
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the presentation was basically laying out everything that these grants are paying for. So we have this, this list of positions. And if we say go forward without the 500,000, then theoretically it's going to impact it, but it's not. Or what I took away wasn't that these are the positions that are going away, or these are the services that are going away. These are what we are currently. These are the things we're currently funding on these grants, and if we go forward assuming that we're going to be $500,000 lighter on that, that's going to impact those in some way. Did I take away the right thing from that?
Of course.
Well, I think what we're trying to figure out is, should we be including this $500,000 or including some of that, trying to find that in the budget, so that when we're talking about what we have, the budgetary decisions at each school, we're factoring in the fact that we're trying to transfer something from the grant to local funds to ensure that that service continues.
So let's kind of get an idea of where we're at. Like, Nukuma, do you want to cover the funds with local budget? The
I do,
deficit with
yeah.
local budget?
I do, because we don't know what's gonna happen with the other budgets either. The other
Mary?
ones.
Okay, Mary Ann?
I'm confused. Like Joanna said, it's $500,000 out of a $78 million.
Maybe it's 82 now.
79.
79, thank you.
$79 million budget. I think we could find those funds.
Joanne?
I definitely want to support the programs. I have no desire
Right.
to cut them. I just want to make sure we're being, yeah.
Okay.
I think if we transfer.
Carly?
Yes.
Yes, you want to
Yes.
cover the program, cover it with
Yes.
local funds? Okay.
I don't know, I'm really torn because the budget is so big and it's going up by so much. We're already potentially asking the taxpayers for a big increase. And I think, this being such a small percentage, that you guys should be able to hopefully figure out like what the priorities are and what programs are making the biggest impact and what we might be able to let go of. So I guess I'm going to say no, even though I don't want any of this to go away, but I also don't want the entire budget to not be passed by the community.
So, was that a yes or no?
I guess it's a no.
You don't want it to go and be covered by local funds. Okay, Jack?
So, the word priority, I think what I said had nothing to do with weeds. I mean, children are not weeds. And if children need certain things, you prioritize what is being served and what you can do without. So mine is you make decisions, not the whole entire 500,000 or not zero. It's, you put the most important things, you keep the most important things that serve kids, and things that may not be directly serving children, make a decision to perhaps do without until we get the grants back. But it's really not the board's job to make those kind of decisions. It's our trust that the administration will do the best thing. So, and I'm just saying, do the best thing for children. And analyze the whole thing and keep some things in that are just absolutely necessary for certain student needs, and maybe some of the adult needs can be left out until we get a more sensible federal administration.
Susie?
I say yes to put it back into the budget with the hopes that we can trust you leadership to reconfigure things and show us.
Charlie?
I'm gonna say that I prefer no on using local funds for it. Again, with the, even though I'm on the opposite end of Susie on this, with the echo of I trust the administration to figure out what is best going forward, but I'd rather not borrow $500,000 from what's already in a tight budget.
Thanks. So, I don't want local funds to cover this deficit. I think, I don't think students are weeds. That was a bigger speech. And it's my understanding, and you guys correct me, you people in the administrative positions, that if those, let's say there's, I'm going to make up numbers, there's 3 positions covered by those grants. Those grants go away. Those 3 positions are not necessarily the 3 positions that would or could get cut. There's an administrative decision that happens because they're administrators that look at everything and determine what positions, if any, need to be cut. So to look specifically at those positions that were listed in that previous slide, I think is not the way to do this. I think you have to look at more from the money aspect, not from the need aspect, because we have to trust that our administration is going to prioritize appropriately and meet the needs of our population within the budget that we can afford. So I say no. So I think we're straw vote is like 3 to 4-ish, 5-ish, 4.
I agree with absolutely everything you just said. And I'm embarrassed because I think I spoke wrong before because I was probably just nervous for the moment. But this is what I'm saying, and it just felt like the way that it was presented potentially left people deciding. And that's not what's supposed to be happening, because that's not necessarily what it's going to look like when things get cut, right? Because you have the ability to move things, and so then let's be careful of how we present information, because I think that it can be misleading and it can be digested by somebody as saying, oh God, if they don't, if the board doesn't say yes to that 500, then all these positions are going to go away. I think that's not a crazy leap to take. When you look at it this way, if you're not sitting in your seat and have the experience, and knowledge that you all have. So I think it's just really important to think about how we present the information outward.
Okay, that's noted. Joanna, I gotcha. I think, I appreciate how passionate everyone is about this, but I think if you all heard what I said, and kind of understood what I said, has anyone changed their mind about whether it should be covered by the local budget or not? Oh. I'm not trying to change your mind, I'm just trying to see if there's a different level of understanding that might have made you.
I think you said kind of how I think.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you.
I do too.
The way you just described it, because I wasn't thinking of the specific dollars going to specific things. I was thinking that there are priorities of needs for kids. The administration will figure out how to handle that, you know. So in a sense,
I think we're twisting this conversation. I'm concerned because I'm not sure we're all saying something different. I think there's a level of misunderstanding that someone's got already in their brain. All of us could have in our brain that's haunting the conversation. I think the administration is looking for direction from us. So those that said this isn't really a board decision, it's it's everything's kind of ultimately a board decision. We direct the administrators on how we want them to proceed. They do the busy work for the detail work. So I don't want to change anyone's mind. I understand the discussions where everybody's coming from. I'm not lobbying for this by any means. I'm just trying to get some general understanding. And it's a straw vote. We can take a real action. Do we have to take action?
No.
We don't have to take action. Well, you certainly got that. But I don't want anyone to walk away feeling like they weren't understood. And I don't want Megan to feel like she misrepresented it either, because I think you said what I understood, but it got misunderstood early in the conversation, I think. Charlie?
I'm trying to think of, trying to simplify the conversation, and hopefully not going to make it worse, but we bottom line is basically we have a $500,000 where we don't know what's happening with it. The federal government might change their mind tomorrow. They might say, there's $500,000 and we don't know where it's coming from. So what we need to do is figure out, do we plan the budget saying we are going to assume that we're not getting that $500,000, or do we say we're going to cover that $500,000 no matter what, and we will go to the taxpayers for it if needed? And I hope that made things simpler and not more complex.
Yeah. And the message that I got, I want to just have you all hear this from me. What I heard was, figure it out the best you can. We like these programs. We understand you've got to take into what's best in account for kids. Bring us back a budget that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Did I summarize that well?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Sure. Should have done that earlier.
Some of you,
Just kidding.
I actually wanted to hear this.
No, we needed to go through that
Well,
process
it
for
provides you
sure.
feedback about
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
understanding. And so,
We needed to go through that process so we could all kind of get to where we are and feel good about it. All right, so Bill, you understand where we're at? All right, next item is D06, class size policy. First reading, so I'm going to make a motion to approve D06, class size policy, as a first reading, and in that motion, I want to move it to a second reading and possible adoption at the December 3rd, 2025 board meeting. Do I have a second?
yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is basically to fit with the standards. Hearing no discussion, I'm going to take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Excuse me. All right, we're up to 9, other business. We have the warrant. Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrants, period. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item is the superintendent's report.
Yeah, I have a couple of things for you all. First, last week we had as you know, it was very snowy for those who were around. Marianne was, I think you had left at that point. Are you still back at that point?
I was gone.
You were gone. You missed a nice little snowstorm on Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Luckily, I want to thank especially John Coffey, working really hard to work with the city to pull that off and put it. We were able to go into City Hall and have the ceremony with the veterans. We had students from BFA and City School and representatives from all the schools, because the kids, as you know, the kids do speeches there. They came down and did their speeches. I think it was the best thing to do instead of putting a couple thousand kids in 6 to 8 inches of snow out in Taylor Park that day. So that quickly got, and I really want to thank John again. I said that already once, but I'm going to say it a second time. He always helps us. He and Eric Bushy helped put this on every year. They're really our leads for all our staff, but John really scrambled, starting at about 5 that morning. I think it was well done. There was also at City School the day before a breakfast for veterans. I think there were probably about 10 or 15, I don't think who was there. Do you remember how many veterans were there? There were like 10 or 15, I would say.
I thought there were a couple more.
Maybe it was more than that.
It was
great.
It was well attended.
It was well attended. There were some parents as well, and just a really nice ceremony where the kids give breakfast to veterans and hear stories, and the veterans, well, they get to sit there and talk with the kids and really have that interaction, which is just great to see. Last week there was Tech Discovery Day that Frank may need some help with this. I have a hard time with what the acronym actually is for FDIDC. I had the acronym wrong, but Franklin County Development Corporation, so Industrial Development Corporation. Tim Smith and Andy Grossman always help put this together, where there's Tech Discovery Day that's posted up at Collins Pearly, where we bring in manufacturers from around Franklin County for kids to see different careers in the STEAM fields. And we had things from BFA Robotics up to Husky and Med Associates. National Guard was there, just showing different ways and different careers that the 8th graders get to kind of get an idea of an exploration, and really hands-on, where they do little projects at each station, get to interact with the employers, and it's great to have the employers in doing that. The other things I would say is November for us as a leadership team is really budget. We've spent a lot of time on budgets and developing budgets, so we have that ready for you for the next meeting. And next week is break, as you all know. And the last thing I want to bring back to all of you, we had a citizen, Mike Goslin, came in and talked about the snow plowing contract and concerns that he had. We went back and researched that. Our bid was exactly what was required to meet our VisBit's insurance requirements, and our contractor that bid it has those qualifications in their insurance. And it does not require a special municipal insurance package. They met the requirements, and that had been done in the RFP, and the RFP had been vetted ahead of time with VisBit. So I know that he thought that that wasn't the case, but we went back and double checked that again, and it met all the requirements. We actually went back to VisBit, and they said, no, you have, all the insurance is correct, what you put in your RFP is correct, and all the insurance is needed for this type of work.
Was that Gulliver Property Management that we have the contract
Do
with?
you remember who it is?
No, it's Small Dog Builders for St. Albans Town, City, BFA, and the central office.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and there was a fair bid process that had been put out, and they were the low bidder, and that's who awarded it to. So I just wanted to reassure the board that we had it when we put out the RFP, and after being checked on we back, it still meets all the requirements.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Bill? Next item is board announcements. Board announcements.
Go see Little Shop of Horrors.
What's that?
Go see Little Shop of Horrors this week.
I have an announcement. I am leaving town Tuesday, November 25th, to go to Tennessee to visit my daughter and the rest of my kids. And I'm coming back December 14th. I'm going to do as much as I can over Zoom. I'm not going to be able to attend that legislative session, obviously. We have Charlie is available here if we need him. And I'm very excited.
That's great.
Enjoy your family, enjoy the warmth.
Thank you.
That's great.
Anybody else? Okay, we do have to have an executive session. So I'm going to make a motion to move a student issue into executive session for BSA subsection 313A1 while making this determination that a premature general public knowledge would clearly place the whole body or person involved in substantial disadvantage. Will someone second my motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Now I'm going to make a motion that we enter into executive session to discuss a student issue at 7:36 p.m. per 1 VSA subsection 313A1. Someone second that motion.
I'll second it, Ms. Lino.
Thank you all. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. So we're going to be in executive session. Once we clear the room, we want the board. And you.
Yep.
Thank you.